everyone, and welcome back. You know how much we love to go deep on all sorts of thought-provoking topics.
Yeah.
And today, we're going to tackle some big questions about success and what really drives it. You know, we've been digging into some amazing articles and research that you all have sent us on intelligence, skills, wealth, and even that mysterious thing we call luck.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Thanks.
So get ready, because this deep dive is going to challenge some of those assumptions about what it really takes to get ahead.
I think you're going to be surprised by some of what we've uncovered.
I know, I already am. So let's jump right in.
All right.
One of the articles we're looking at actually starts with a question I've often wondered myself.
Yeah.
Why aren't all brilliant people rich?
Oh, that's a good one.
It seems like if you've got the brains, the wealth should just naturally follow, right?
Right. Oh, it turns out intelligence is kind of like
Yeah.
more complicated than just a single number, like an IQ score or something.
Okay, I see.
It's like a whole bunch of different abilities all rolled into one.
Okay.
You've got your analytical thinking, of course.
Yeah.
But then there's creativity and even emotional intelligence.
Oh.
And all these play a part.
Yeah.
And the really interesting thing is that none of those automatically mean you're going to be financially successful.
So you can be like a total genius physicist, but still struggle to balance your checkbook.
Exactly. Like you can understand how the universe works,
Right.
but still overdraft your bank account.
Uh-huh. That's so true.
Right.
It's like those stories you hear about lottery winners who end up broke a few years later. They might have had that lucky break.
Right.
But maybe they didn't have the skills to actually manage all that money.
Yeah, it really highlights how luck and intelligence on their own aren't always enough.
Yeah.
You also need the practical skills to navigate the financial world.
Okay, so it's not enough to just be smart or lucky.
Right.
You also need to know how to manage your money and make those smart financial decisions.
Like financial literacy.
Yeah.
That's a whole separate skill set.
Okay.
And one thing that really stood out to me from these sources is this emphasis on systems thinking.
Systems thinking. Okay.
Yeah, it's like how wealthy people will often build businesses or investment strategies that keep making money, even when they're not actively working.
Okay, so it's not just about working hard. It's about setting up those systems that sort of work for you.
Exactly. It's like working smarter, not harder.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Imagine like an online business, right?
Okay.
That sells digital products. So the person who creates it puts in all the initial effort, right?
Yeah.
To develop the product, set up the website or the platform they're going to sell it on. But then after that, the system pretty much runs on autopilot.
Oh, I see.
And it generates passive income even when they're not actively working on it.
So it's like planting a money tree that just keeps on giving.
Haha, exactly. And these systems, they're not just for online businesses either.
Right.
You see it in real estate.
Okay.
With rental income or even building a strong brand that attracts customers even when you're busy with other stuff.
So it's about thinking long-term and setting things up in a way that they generate value over time.
Exactly. Building assets that work for you, not just trading hours for dollars.
Okay. That's a whole new way of thinking about wealth creation for me.
Yeah.
I'm liking this systems thinking thing.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
But you know, it's not just about the systems, right?
Right.
These articles also dig into the fascinating variety of human cognitive abilities and how those play into success as well.
Yeah, it's so cool how we're all wired so differently.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that age-old nature versus nurture debate. Are we born with certain talents, or do we develop them through our experiences?
Well, both nature and nurture play a role,
right?
But the research suggests that even our natural abilities are heavily shaped by our upbringing and environment.
So, like, you could have two people with a natural talent for, say, music.
Yeah.
But if one of them grows up in a family that encourages music, gives them access to instruments and lessons, and the other grows up in an environment where music isn't really valued, their paths will likely be very different.
Exactly. It's like having a seed with all this potential, but if you plant it in bad soil, you don't give it enough sunlight or water, it might never grow into the beautiful flower it could be.
Wow. I love that analogy. It really highlights how crucial our environment and experiences are, even for things like intelligence and skills. So, okay, we've got intelligence, which is multifaceted, and we've got our unique wiring shaped by our experiences. But let's get practical here. how do all these skills and qualifications
Yeah.
actually translate into building wealth?
That's a great question.
Right. Like, what are those real-world skills that matter?
Yeah. Well, what these sources highlight
Okay.
is that in the real world, things like communication, negotiation, and even leadership can be just as valuable as raw intellect, especially in business.
So street smarts can be just as important as book smarts.
Sometimes even more so.
Okay, I can see that.
Think about like a top-notch salesperson.
Oh, okay.
They may not be a scientific genius or anything,
Right.
but their ability to connect with people, build relationships, and persuade others.
Yeah.
That's what drives their success.
Right. And ultimately their income, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of success, your sources also point out that a lot of very successful people, like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, they didn't follow that traditional path of college and then the corporate ladder.
Yeah, they were kind of disruptors, weren't they?
Totally. They challenged the status quo and found success on their own terms.
Okay, so qualifications aren't the only path.
No, not at all. What's interesting is that a lot of these unconventional paths often involve a higher degree of risk-taking.
Okay. So you've got to be willing to step outside that comfort zone.
Exactly. Embrace uncertainty. They didn't let fear hold them back from pursuing their vision, even when other people doubted them.
That's pretty inspiring, actually.
It is, but it also raises a good question.
Yeah.
How do successful people find that balance between taking risks and avoiding those really reckless ones?
Right. Like, how do you know when to go for it and when to hold back?
That's a great question. It's something we're going to explore more as we dive deeper into the mindsets of successful individuals.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, so we've talked about intelligence.
Yeah.
But it's not just about being smart, right? There's also skills, those practical abilities, and even the willingness to take calculated risks.
Right. But you know what we haven't talked about yet?
What's that?
The elephant in the room? Luck? Yes. Luck. Is it all just random chance?
You know, it might seem that way.
Yeah.
But when you actually break it down, luck has different dimensions.
Different dimensions. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So you've got your classic random luck, like winning the lottery, pure chance.
Right.
But then there's what's called created luck.
Created luck.
Yeah. And this comes from your hard work and your preparation. It's about putting yourself out there, expanding your knowledge, your network. So you're more likely to be in the right place at the right time.
Got it.
When those opportunities pop up.
Okay, so it's not just about stumbling upon something good. It's about making yourself more open to those opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. You create the conditions for luck to find you.
I love that. It's like that saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got random luck. And we've got created luck.
Yeah. And then there's what we call circumstantial luck.
Circumstantial.
This is the kind of luck you can't really control. Like the family you're born into, the economic environment you grow up in, things like that.
Okay, so like Bill Gates being born right at the start of the personal computer revolution.
Exactly.
Talk about good timing.
Talk about being in the right place at the right time.
So we can't control every lucky break.
Right.
But we can make ourselves more receptive to those opportunities by being prepared and putting ourselves out there.
Yeah. And your sources actually have some really great tips on how to do just that.
Oh, I'm excited to dive into those.
We'll definitely get to them. But for now, I think it's fascinating to see how success is shaped by all these different factors.
Yeah, it's not just about being smart or even working hard.
Right.
It's about understanding those different dimensions of luck, being open to opportunities, and having the skills and knowledge to make the most of them.
Absolutely.
This is already blowing my mind.
It's just the beginning.
I can't wait to see what else we uncover.
Me too.
But we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll be back soon to explore even more fascinating factors that contribute to success.
Sounds good.
Stay with us.
Yeah.
So before the break, we were getting into this idea of created luck and how it can play a role in success. I'm already starting to think about ways I can be more proactive about that in my own life. You also mentioned this other fascinating concept called social capital. What exactly is that, and how does it factor into the success equation?
Yeah. Social capital, it's basically the value you get from your network of relationships.
Yeah.
It's like who you know and how well you know them can open up doors to opportunities that you wouldn't have access to otherwise.
So it's kind of like having that VIP pass, getting you into those exclusive rooms, those insights, that advice, those connections that give you an edge.
It's a good way to put it. It's not just about collecting a ton of business cards or having thousands of LinkedIn connections, though.
Right, right.
It's more about building genuine relationships built on trust, mutual respect, and a willingness to help each other out. It's like having a supportive circle of people who genuinely believe in you and what you're trying to achieve.
Okay, so quality over quantity when it comes to your network. And you mentioned mentorship earlier, too. I'm really curious about how finding the right mentor can impact someone's journey.
Oh, mentorship can be huge. It's like having someone who's already walked the path you're on, and they can offer guidance, share their experiences, and be there to support you when you hit those inevitable roadblocks. A good mentor can really help you avoid common pitfalls, make strategic decisions, and stay motivated when things get tough.
So it's like having a guide on your journey, someone to help you navigate those twists and turns.
Exactly.
But finding the right mentor can feel kind of intimidating. Do you have any tips on how to go about that?
Well, I think the first step is to get clear on what you're actually looking for in a mentor. You know, what are your goals? What specific skills or knowledge do you want to develop? And once you have that figured out, start thinking about people you admire who already embody those qualities. Maybe it's someone in your professional network, a former professor, even someone you follow online whose work you really respect.
Okay, so identify your needs and then look for people who already have what you're trying to cultivate. Makes sense. But how do you actually approach someone and ask them to be your mentor?
Don't be afraid to just reach out and express your admiration for their work. You tell them what you're hoping to learn. You could start by asking for a quick informational interview, or maybe even offering to help them out with a project. People are often more willing to give back than you think, especially if they see that genuine enthusiasm and willingness to learn.
So it's all about taking that first step and building that connection. And who knows, maybe that initial conversation could turn into a really valuable mentorship. But it's not just about seeking guidance from others, is it? These articles also talk about the importance of self-reflection and introspection.
Yeah, that inner work is crucial. Your sources really emphasize the importance of self-awareness. Understanding your strengths, weaknesses, values, and what truly motivates you. Without that solid foundation, it's really easy to get sidetracked or chase goals that aren't actually aligned with who you are.
It's like you could end up climbing the wrong ladder, so to speak.
Exactly. And part of that self-awareness is also understanding your own risk tolerance. We talked earlier about how successful people often embrace calculated risks. But it's super important to know your own limits and not take on more than you can actually handle emotionally or financially.
Right, like those entrepreneurs who put their life savings into a startup, it takes a certain level of risk tolerance to bet it all like that.
Totally. And that level of risk tolerance is different for everyone. There's no right or wrong answer. The key is being honest with yourself about how much uncertainty you can comfortably handle.
Okay, so self-awareness, risk tolerance, mentorship, it's like we're building a whole toolkit for success here.
Right.
But there's another piece that keeps coming up in these articles that I think is really important: ethics and integrity.
You're right. It's easy to get so caught up in that pursuit of success that you lose sight of the bigger picture. But ethical behavior, integrity, those are crucial for building lasting success, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, it's like what goes around comes around. If you're cutting corners or compromising your values to get ahead, it's going to catch up to you at some point.
Exactly. Building a reputation for trustworthiness, for integrity that's invaluable, you attract loyal customers, investors, partners. It's like creating a foundation of trust that can help you weather any storm. Think about it. You're way more likely to do business with someone you see as honest and ethical.
Absolutely. It's about building relationships that are based on trust, not just transactions. And that applies to every aspect of life, not just business.
Right. It's about living and working with integrity, treating people with respect, and making decisions that align with your values, even when it's hard.
So we've been talking about those internal factors like mindset, skills, and ethics. But what about those external forces that can impact our chances of success? Things like the economy, technology, even the political landscape.
Oh yeah, those external forces play a huge role. Think about it, like if the economy is stable or a certain industry is booming,
Yeah.
that creates like fertile ground for people to build wealth.
Right.
But then on the flip side, if you're in a recession or an industry that's declining, it can be way harder to succeed no matter how talented or hardworking you are.
It's like you're swimming against the current.
Exactly. And then you've got technology that's constantly changing and disrupting industries. Like, think about how the internet has completely transformed how we work, how we shop, how we connect with each other. People who can adapt to those technological changes and use them to their advantage have a serious edge.
Right. It's like catching a wave. If you're in the right place at the right time, you can ride that wave to success.
Exactly. And then there's globalization, which has created this interconnected world that's full of opportunities and challenges. Businesses can reach customers globally now, but they're also competing with companies all over the world. It's a much more complex landscape than it used to be.
So it's not just about individual effort. It's also about recognizing and adapting to those larger forces at play.
Totally. It takes a certain level of awareness, flexibility, and willingness to learn and evolve as the world changes around us.
So it's about staying curious, informed, constantly seeking out knowledge and new perspectives.
Exactly. And speaking of new perspectives, your sources also bring up a topic that's often overlooked in these conversations about success.
Failure.
Failure. That doesn't exactly scream success, does it?
I know, right? But what's so interesting is that your sources actually frame failure not as the opposite of success, but as a valuable learning opportunity, a stepping stone on the path to growth and achievement.
So it's not about avoiding failure at all costs, but about learning from those mistakes and using those lessons to fuel future success.
Exactly. Every time we stumble, we gain valuable information and insights. We learn what doesn't work, which helps us refine our approach and make better decisions going forward.
Like Thomas Edison, he famously said, "I haven't failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work."
Exactly. He embraced failure as a part of the process, not a roadblock to success.
That's such a powerful mindset shift. But it also brings up a big question. How much control do we really have over our own destiny? That is a big one. It's the age-old debate. Free will versus determinism. Are we in the driver's seat, or are we just products of our circumstances?
Right.
It's a complex question. But I think the takeaway from your sources is that it's probably a combination of both.
Okay.
We can definitely influence our outcomes through hard work, by developing our skills, making strategic choices, even creating our own luck, like we were talking about before. But there are always going to be external factors we can't control, like unexpected events, the ups and downs of the market. Even global pandemics can throw a wrench in things.
It's like life loves to throw those curveballs, and sometimes the best laid plans just go completely off track. It can be pretty humbling when things don't work out despite our best efforts.
Absolutely. But that's where resilience comes in. That adaptability, a willingness to learn from those unexpected twists and turns. It's about accepting what we can control and what we can't, and focusing our energy on what we can influence while developing the mental and emotional agility to handle what we can't.
So it's about finding that balance between taking responsibility for our choices and actions, but also recognizing that we can't control every outcome.
Exactly. And I think that leads to another really important point your sources make. Success isn't a one-size-fits-all formula. There's no magic recipe that guarantees results for everyone. What works for one person might not work for another. It's about finding your own unique path, leveraging your strengths, and facing those challenges in a way that feels authentic to you.
So there's no cookie-cutter approach. It's a personalized journey, and what matters most is figuring out what success actually means to you and then pursuing it with passion, with integrity, and a willingness to learn and grow along the way.
Beautifully said. And that brings us to another really interesting point raised in your sources, this whole concept of globalization and how access to technology is completely reshaping the landscape of success in the 21st century.
Okay, let's dive into that. It's a topic that's constantly evolving. I'm really curious to hear your take on it.
Well, the internet has created this global marketplace, connecting people and businesses in ways we couldn't have imagined just a few decades ago. It's led to a boom in entrepreneurship, with people building online businesses and reaching customers worldwide.
Like Amazon, Google, Facebook, all those companies were built on the internet. It's amazing how much has changed in such a short amount of time. And now we've got online learning platforms like Coursera and Udemy making education accessible to anyone with an internet connection, regardless of where they live or their background.
Exactly. Those barriers to entry have been lowered in many ways, creating opportunities for people who might not have had access to traditional paths to education or entrepreneurship before.
It's like a whole new frontier of opportunity. But with all this talk about globalization and technology, it's easy to get swept up in all that and forget about the human element. What about empathy, compassion, and social responsibility? What role do those things play in the pursuit of success?
That's such an important point. Success shouldn't come at the expense of other people or the well-being of our planet. In fact, I'd argue that true success is about making a positive impact on the world around us.
So it's not just about climbing that ladder of success, but also about being mindful of who we might be stepping on along the way.
Exactly. Whether it's through ethical business practices, philanthropy, or just simply treating others with kindness and respect, our actions should reflect our values. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected and that our choices have a ripple effect.
So it's about moving from that me mindset to a we mindset, understanding that our individual success is often tied to the well-being of the larger community.
Right. And that brings us back to the idea of social capital. Your sources really emphasize that success is rarely a solo act. It's about collaboration, mentorship, building those strong relationships.
It's not just about what you know or even who you know, but how you interact with and support those around you.
Exactly. We talked about the value of mentorship, but it goes even beyond that. It's about cultivating a network of people you trust, who share your values, and who are all in it together, supporting each other to succeed.
Building a community of support, a team that lifts each other up and celebrates each other's wins.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about success. It's often a shared experience, a journey we take together.
I love that. This conversation has been so insightful. We've covered so much ground, from the internal factors that drive success to those external forces that shape our opportunities and everything in between. It's clear that success is a multifaceted concept, shaped by a whole bunch of different variables.
And one of the most powerful messages that comes through in your sources is the importance of defining success on your own terms. It's not about chasing someone else's definition of wealth or achievement, but about aligning your goals with your values and what lights you up.
Absolutely. Finding that sweet spot where your talents, your interests, and your values all intersect. And it seems like a lot of truly successful people share that intrinsic motivation. They're not just driven by those external rewards, but by a deep sense of purpose and fulfillment in what they do.
You got it. Your sources actually highlight a bunch of studies that show intrinsic motivation is a much stronger driver of long-term success than extrinsic motivation. People who are passionate about what they do are way more likely to persevere through challenges, to innovate, and ultimately achieve their goals.
That makes me think of all the artists, musicians, entrepreneurs who put their heart and soul into their work, even if it means facing financial struggles or setbacks. They're not just chasing a paycheck. They're driven by something deeper.
It's a beautiful example of how passion can fuel success. And it reminds us that success isn't just about the destination, but about the journey itself. It's about finding joy and meaning in the process of pursuing your passions, regardless of the outcome.
It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget to enjoy the ride. But ultimately, it's about creating a life that feels both fulfilling and impactful.
Couldn't agree more. Your sources also talk about the importance of balance in life. Success isn't just about achieving financial wealth or professional recognition. It's about nurturing all aspects of our well-being: physical, emotional, social, even spiritual.
So it's about creating a life that feels whole and integrated, where success in one area doesn't come at the expense of neglecting other important parts of ourselves.
Exactly. And that takes a certain level of self-awareness and intentionality. It's about setting boundaries, prioritizing our values, and making choices that support our overall well-being, not just chasing those short-term goals.
It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. If we're always pushing ourselves to achieve without taking the time to recharge and replenish our energy, we're going to burn out and ultimately sabotage our own success.
That's so true. Your sources actually get into the science behind stress and burnout, explaining how chronic stress can really negatively impact our physical and mental health, leading to lower productivity, less creativity, and just an overall decline in well-being.
So self-care isn't just a luxury, it's crucial for sustainable success, taking care of our physical and mental health so we can show up as our best selves in all areas of life.
Absolutely. And self-care looks different for everyone. For some people, it might be daily meditation or exercise. For others, it might be spending time in nature, pursuing creative hobbies, or connecting with loved ones. The key is finding what nourishes you and replenishes your energy.
Okay, so we've talked about defining success on our own terms, finding that intrinsic motivation, maintaining balance, and prioritizing self-care. What other key takeaways do you think our listeners should really take to heart?
One last thought that stuck with me is this idea that success isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's an ongoing process of learning, growing, and evolving.
And that journey is going to be different for everyone, right? There are going to be ups and downs, detours, unexpected challenges along the way.
Exactly. And that's where resilience, adaptability, and that growth mindset are so important. It's about embracing those challenges, learning from our mistakes, and constantly striving to improve.
So it's not about reaching some finish line, but about the ongoing pursuit of growth and fulfillment. And it seems like the most successful people are the ones who are always learning, adapting, and evolving.
You nailed it. And your source material offers some really valuable tools and strategies for cultivating that growth mindset. One thing that jumped out at me was the importance of surrounding yourself with a supportive network of people who believe in you and your vision.
Building that dream team of mentors, peers, allies who can offer encouragement, guidance, and accountability along the way.
And don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone. Embrace the unknown. That's often where the greatest opportunities for growth and learning are hiding.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've challenged some common assumptions about success, explored all these different factors that contribute to it, and most importantly, we've learned that it's a deeply personal journey that's unique to each individual.
And one of the most powerful messages from your sources is this. Now that you have a deeper understanding of the different dimensions of luck, how can you actually create more opportunities for good luck to show up in your life?
Wow, that's a powerful question. It reminds us that we're not just passive bystanders in our own lives, but active participants in shaping our own destinies. By expanding our knowledge, building those meaningful connections, and putting ourselves out there, we can increase our chances of bumping into those serendipitous moments that lead to breakthroughs and unexpected opportunities.
Absolutely. And remember, success isn't a straight line. There will be setbacks, challenges, detours along the way. But by cultivating resilience, embracing that growth mindset, and surrounding ourselves with a supportive community, we can navigate those challenges and come out stronger on the other side.
This has been an amazing journey. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and expertise. I know our listeners are walking away from this deep dive feeling inspired, empowered, and equipped to create their own unique paths to success.
It's been a pleasure. I encourage everyone listening to keep exploring these ideas, keep asking those questions, and never stop learning and growing. The world is full of possibilities for those who are willing to embrace the journey.
And that wraps up this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you enjoyed this exploration of intelligence, skills, wealth, and that ever-elusive element of luck. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep seeking knowledge, and keep creating your own version of success.
Wow, we've really covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From intelligence and skills to those external forces and even luck. And it seems like the biggest takeaway so far is that success isn't just one thing. It's this whole intricate web of factors that come together, right? Yeah, definitely. And, I think one of the most powerful messages that came out of all these sources is that you get to define success on your own terms. It's not about chasing someone else's idea of wealth or achievement. It's more about making sure your goals line up with your own values and passions.
Absolutely. It's like finding that sweet spot where your talents and your interests and those things that are important to you all come together.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of those people who we consider successful share that drive from within. They're not just chasing external rewards, but they genuinely find meaning and purpose in the work that they do.
It's so true. And actually, your sources point to a lot of studies that show intrinsic motivation, that drive that comes from within, is a much stronger predictor of long-term success than extrinsic motivation, like those external rewards. So people who are passionate about what they do, they're more likely to stick with it through those tough times, to come up with new ideas, and to ultimately reach those goals they've set for themselves.
I'm thinking about those artists and musicians and entrepreneurs who pour their heart and soul into their work, even when it means struggling financially or facing setbacks along the way. They're not just in it for the money, right?
Right. They're driven by something much deeper.
It's beautiful how passion can fuel that kind of dedication. And it reminds us that success isn't just about the end goal, but the whole journey that gets you there.
Absolutely.
It's about enjoying the process and finding meaning in those everyday steps you take.
I love that. And, your sources also talk about this idea of balance in life. Success isn't just about money or climbing the corporate ladder. It's also about making sure you're taking care of all parts of yourself: physical, emotional, social, even spiritual well-being.
It's about creating a life that feels whole and integrated where you're not sacrificing one area for another, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that takes a certain level of self-awareness and intentionality. Setting boundaries, prioritizing what's important to you, and making choices that support your overall well-being, not just chasing those quick wins.
We all know that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're always pushing yourself without taking time to recharge and replenish, you're going to burn out eventually, which isn't good for anyone.
That's a really good point. And actually, your sources even delve into the science behind stress and burnout, explaining how that constant stress can impact us physically and mentally, leading to less productivity and creativity, and just affecting our overall well-being.
So self-care isn't just some luxury, it's actually a necessity.
It is.
It's about taking care of yourself so you can show up as your best self in all areas of your life.
Totally. And self-care, it looks different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
For some people, it might be meditation or exercise every day. For others, it might be spending time out in nature, doing something creative, or just connecting with people they care about.
Right.
The important thing is finding what works for you. You know what makes you feel good and what gives you energy.
Okay, so we've got defining success on our own terms, that inner drive, balance, self-care. What else should our listeners really keep in mind?
One last thought that really resonated with me is that success isn't a destination. It's more like a journey. It's an ongoing process of learning and growing and changing.
I like that. So it's less about reaching some finish line and more about embracing those continuous challenges and opportunities for growth.
Exactly. And your sources actually give some great advice on how to develop that growth mindset. One thing that really stood out to me was the importance of having people around you, a support system that believes in you and what you're trying to achieve.
Like building your dream team, your mentors, peers, allies who can offer that encouragement and guidance and accountability along the way.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to try new things. Step outside of your comfort zone and embrace those things you don't know yet.
Right.
That's usually where the best opportunities for growth and learning are.
I think that's a great point to end on. This deep dive has been amazing.
It has.
We've challenged those common ideas about success, explored so many factors that contribute to it, and most importantly, we've learned that it's a deeply personal journey that's going to look different for everyone.
I completely agree. It's been a great conversation.
It has. And before we wrap up, I just want to say a huge thank you to you for sharing your expertise and insights. I know our listeners are going to walk away from this feeling inspired and empowered to create their own unique path to success.
It's been my pleasure. Really enjoyed it. And to everyone listening, keep exploring these ideas, keep asking questions, and never stop learning and growing. The world is full of amazing possibilities. You just got to be open to them.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you enjoyed exploring the world of intelligence, skills, wealth, and that ever-elusive element of luck with us. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking knowledge.